Hi friends! Today is a very exciting video as it is another collaboration with Fude Beauty. But first, if it's your first time here, hi, I'm Alicia. Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. Working with Fude Beauty is always a pleasure. Although not sponsored, we did work together in trying to gather as much information for our highly anticipated bristle type info video. This is where we'll go through the different bristle types: squirrel, Canadian squirrel, goat, Seisakusho, Sokoho, raccoon, horse, weasel, Kolinsky. We'll go through the different categories and breaking down which bristle type is best for what medium, for what application technique. And we had asked online that you submit your questions and we have them all here. But what's great about this is that the answers are from the workshops themselves. Yes, Shikohoro, Hokuro, Nakamura, Seisakusho, Kyoreido. We have them all here. Answers from the actual workshops, the artisans themselves, to best guide your decision in which brush would be best for your makeup application. I have them all here. We're going to go through all the questions, and of course, if you have any more after this video, please drop them down below. And why don't we get started, because this, the time says will be down below, fam. Just so you know. Many of you had asked about the Tanseido line, which we will have another video on, so stay tuned for that. And that will dedicate a brand video to Tanseido that will go through the entire line, or of course at least their best sellers. So many puff brushes to choose from. Which are best or most versatile? We'll do a dedicated video about puff brushes because I have quite a few. Many of you had actually asked me about the GSN02 and the Hokuro WF2. I think this might currently be out of stock. I'm so sorry I'm showing it. But this has been one of my most favorite puff brushes for powder foundation application. But again, we have so many others that we're more than happy to dedicate a video just to puff brushes, but I just wanted to highlight that one. Our different natural bristles like fox, squirrel, etc. are used for looks as much as for usefulness. And from Koiro, they say yes, it is very well balanced hair material. Natural bristles have unique abilities suitable for different applications. And to briefly cover that, squirrel, for instance, is very light, so it's more of a conservative application of color, versus goat hair, which is going to have more pickup, will have a more robust application of makeup. Compare goat, squirrel, and horse. Okay, from Hokuro, squirrel, they say the tips of the bristles are very delicate and soft, and their feel on the skin is unsurpassed. It is suitable for natural makeup as it applies color softly, whereas goat have fine tips and a strong back. Suitable for blush, eyeshadow, and many other applications. Horse, the tips of the bristles are a little coarse, but they blend in well with good use, and the price is very reasonable. An example of a gray squirrel brush from Hokuro is from their Sora series, the GC2 cheek brush. Incredibly soft, is pinched at the ferrule, flat on both sides, and comes to a slight taper, but you just see the silky flow of the brush, and I feel very versatile. Although it's a cheek brush, you could get really nice application of color all over the face, and because it is flat on both sides, I feel it covers more surface area of the face, which allows really beautiful loose powder application, maybe even a light dusting of your favorite powder foundation, but not too much. Ideal for bronzer, beautiful for blush. You can even strike a nice highlighter on the cheekbones here using the angled side of the brush. But again, going back to what Hokuro was saying, gray squirrel is usually sought after for a soft application of color. If you can detect the silkiness just from the camera alone, this is not going to have as much pickup as, let's say, a goat hair brush. This is a Hokuro Moe round face brush, their PF5, and it has a lot more bristle to it, not as soft as their GC2 cheek brush from their Sora series, but I still feel very versatile in use, and because it is goat hair, it's going to pick up and deposit more product than the gray squirrel brush will. So it all depends on your own expectations in terms of how you want your makeup to look on the skin, if you want to have a little heavier application or a lighter one. And both of them side by side, although they're totally different in terms of the brush design, I think you can still detect just from the video alone that the gray squirrel has a lot more silkiness to it. It's going to be softer on the skin than the goat hair. That also depends on your own skin sensitivity. Some people might react to goat hair, whereas they won't to gray squirrel because it is significantly softer. But if you're good with either and you still want a little more color, then you go with the goat hair. You want a little less color, more like a veil-like application, then the gray squirrel will be your pick. And the horsehair brush, I usually use horsehair for eye makeup because it is a little rougher and I'd rather have it be a touch rougher on the eyes than I would on the rest of my face, as I'm just sliding the brush across my lid versus a bigger surface area like my cheek. So I would stick to either goat or squirrel mostly for your cheek or face product application. Kyoreido's insight is that squirrel is soft and pleasant to the touch. It is suitable for natural makeup. Goat hair is more comfortable on the skin and has a more manageable texture. Goat hair is soft to the touch and has a good color and powder content. Horse hair is harder. It is suitable for eyebrows and other areas where you want to apply the product well. So maybe more precise like application like we spoke about on the lid. The eyebrows, great place for horse hair. I wanted to highlight a few Kyoreido brushes, however. The Kyoreido Kawami KK001 powder brush, you see that is very much more tapered than ones previously shown here. Also gray squirrel. This is not going to have the same pickup as a goat hair. You could tell just by the silky texture of the bristle. And because of its more pronounced taper, I feel beautiful for just all over buffing, loose powder application, even some blush application, dare I say, because since it is gray squirrel, it's not going to pick up as much product as a goat hair brush. And if you're one to shy away from powder blush in that you feel it makes you appear like a clown or the placement is just not right, this won't pick up as much product but will hug the cheek area in a way that will deposit the blush in the most natural way. Another brush from Kyoreido is their Takumi line, their powder brush KT001. This is also made with gray squirrel, but it's more pinched than the KK01 that you saw from the Kiwami line. Very soft to the touch and a little more lightweight than I feel the Kiwami brush, as that brush has a lot more bristle than this one. Here you can see side by side, when I turn the brush all the way around, it's the same diameter, but when I turn the Takumi brush around, it's a lot flatter on both sides. Still very soft, but I think perhaps really nice if you want a loose powder application, even bronzer. Maybe better for bronzer, or if you want a little more precise application of color, if you didn't want to use like how the Kiwami one is designed, this is going to be a little more precise with your bronzer or even contour application and blush. How does tanuki hair compare, which is raccoon hair, to the other hair types like weasel and sable? Koyuro says it is more flexible, controllable, and durable than the weasel or the Kolinsky hairs. The downside is that it lacks cohesion. From Hokuro, raccoon bristles are a little thicker than weasel or Kolinsky brushes, both overall and at the tips. Raccoon bristle is often used as an eyebrow brush, but it can also be used to draw a firm line. So it appears like tanuki hair is more appropriate for precision application purposes, eyebrows, liner, probably not great for powder or cheek brush creations. When it comes to brushes that have both squirrel and goat hair, how does it compare to exclusively all goat or exclusively all squirrel? Koiro writes that the softness, strength, and powderiness of each hair material can be brought out, which cannot be expressed with single hair. And what that means, I think, is if you want best of both worlds, you have to put both worlds together. If you want a soft veil application of color, stick to gray squirrel. If you want something more robust, stick to the goat. If you want in between, then you will have to combine both bristle types to achieve that application look. All right, have a little question combo here. Would love to know the difference between red, blue, gray squirrel. Is it just softness? Also, please break down the different squirrel hairs and why some are more expensive than others. Also, difference between all the squirrel hair and quality. From Koyuro, red squirrel and gray squirrel are purely soft, which is their main characteristic. Pine squirrel, however, is stronger than red and gray squirrel and are suitable for blush and shadow. Canadian squirrel has stronger tips than pine squirrel and is very rare and expensive, but it is a popular material among professionals because it is very manageable and controllable. This is why they are so much more expensive than others. From Tanseido, red squirrel is very precious and not available for purchase. It is very pleasant to write with, even around the eyes. Gray squirrel are black and have fine tips, so they are very comfortable. Pine squirrel Squirrel are also available in yellow, gray, and graduated colors. The Canadian Squirrel has a more pleasant coat than the tree squirrel. All squirrels have nice fur, but there are differences in softness and loin. There's a gradation of softness among all the squirrel hairs. Let me pull up my list because I have a couple of examples I would like to show. I have not used this brush yet. I just took it out of the box. I bought this months ago, but this is the Koiro Yakusugi Red Squirrel brush. It is so exquisitely crafted. I haven't used it yet because I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to use this brush. But you see everything from the handle to the brush curled ferrule. But look at the gradient of color for this brush. And you could just detect the softness and the silkiness on screen. I did not wash it yet again. I just kept it in its box because I could not handle using this on my own face. This is significantly softer than Gray Squirrel. It is, woo, I would say by a touch. This is a Koiro brush, but is an example from our previous question about mixing goat and squirrel. This is actually their cheek brush from their premium line that is a mix of goat and squirrel brush. This is definitely not going to be as soft as the Gray Squirrel one, the Yakusugi brush. So if you want a little more product pickup, if you don't want so much of a soft application of color, then you would use, of course, Gray Squirrel, which I think is going to put on a little more makeup than the Red Squirrel, but definitely not as much makeup as the goat. A new brand recently premiered on Fude Beauty, Bristle. This is a pine squirrel brush, specifically their BES01. I've never had a round eyeshadow brush like this with pine, and it's just unbelievably soft, and I think perfect for one and done eye looks. You could strike it across the lid, take it through the crease, and I could only imagine that pine squirrel in a blush brush would deposit such beautiful color on the cheeks, a little more so than Gray Squirrel, I would suspect, because it's not as soft as Gray Squirrel. Still soft, okay? I would put in the category of Seisakusho. It's gonna pick up a little more product but have a little more pushback. And Canadian Squirrel, well, I have this brush here, the white Canadian Squirrel, the Koiro WCS eyeshadow brush. It is very tiny, but just look at the lacquer job here on the handle and just the look of this white Canadian Squirrel. They have big face brushes that are very expensive. One of these days I would love to have one. They just look so exquisitely crafted. The gradient of the bristles go from like that beautiful gray, middle gray to white, and you could detect that here. It's just gorgeous. And I think this is very popular among professionals, as Koiro was saying, because it's soft but it's very manageable and controllable, meaning that you're gonna get that color payoff, but that softness that you would get from Gray Squirrel, but you're not going to get the same color payoff. I can't even imagine. I'm going to get a cheek brush, that's it. Is there a bristle that tends to last longer than others? Additionally, in terms of the least to most expensive, can you rank the main bristle types? Bristle longevity depends on the delicateness of a bristle, combined with how often it is used and with what products, as well as how it is washed and treated. The order of softness is typically Silver Fox Squirrel are regarded as the softest. Saibikoho, Saikoho, Sokoho Goat is softer than Weasel. Kolinsky softer than Water Badger, but this can depend also on other factors like the quality of the bristles themselves, the shape, length, and density of the bunding. The price of the bristles depends on the price the workshops buy them for, which depends on quality and rarity. Silver Fox and some varieties of squirrel are high quality and rare, and therefore generally more expensive. These are also becoming more difficult for Japanese fude makers to purchase, and they are more expensive. So basically, depending on what's available, that's why those Koiro brushes went so fast. I didn't even stand a chance against the ones that look like the puff, but they were so expensive. I had to forego those because my budget could not handle it at the time. The Silver Fox, fam, if you can get your hands on it, get it. What is the difference between dyed and undyed goat hair? Additionally, does dyeing the bristles affect the brush's longevity? The general consensus, it seems, is that the difference can relate to the shape or length of the bristle or the density of the bundling. It might be a personal preference for showing product or not. Some, like Mizuho, often use dyed for powder and undyed for liquid. Chikuhodo writes that it is said undyed bristles are softer, but there's not really much difference. If anything, the difference is related to the design. And from Hokuro, dyed goat hair may be a little weaker in strength. However, there is no difference in softness. The softness varies depending on the individual difference of the raw material itself. Going into some synthetic brush questions, how different or similar are the PBT bristles of the following three brushes? Koiro's colorful checkered Shikisai Ichimatsu mineral brush, Koiro Fupa 03 mineral foundation brush, and the Koiro F04 mineral brush Fupa 03. Do I have that one? Here's the Koiro colorful checkered brush. You see that it has a lovely gradient from white to pink, and this is characterized, it says here, or Koiro says specifically, this brush is made out of all PBT, which is characterized by its silky softness. And here we have the Koiro Fupa 03 mineral foundation brush. This brush is also made of PBT that resembles a fine light peak. By mixing it with natural goat, it is possible to express voluminous hair ends. And the 04, which I don't have, I believe, is relatively strong type of brush among these types. I spoke about synthetic versus natural before. Because synthetic fibers don't have cuticles like natural hairs do, it's not going to grab product in the same way. But that could also mean a longer brush, because I think more suitable for liquid and cream products. They could handle it more. Synthetic brushes can handle those mediums. They can be washed more often, which is usually recommended anytime you're dealing with liquid or cream products. Whereas natural hair, they have the cuticles on the bristle, so that's going to grab more product and also take away. So depending on the coverage level you're seeking with your foundation will determine what type of brush you wish to use. Synthetic brush, because it's not going to take away as much product, will lay down a lot more than a natural hair brush would. Some people feel that PBT fibers are a lot softer than natural hair, so it's very individual. I personally love to use natural hair brushes for powder products because of the cuticles. It just allows for more even distribution of color, and it feels silkier on the skin. Just the swirl and twirl of it, I feel, is a lot smoother than a synthetic brush. That is just my personal opinion. A lot of people have different ones. We could talk about it down below. What are the best hair types to apply shimmer shadow? From Kyore though, they write, it depends on your preference for the finish, but if you want a natural look, squirrel hair is the way to go. For a natural finish, I would recommend squirrel hair. If you want a solid color, horse, weasel, or goat hair. If you want a natural look, squirrel hair is the way to go. I've said this before that because squirrel hair is a lot softer, an example of a gray squirrel eyeshadow brush is the Kyoredo Kiwami eyeshadow brush. This is so beautiful because it's domed, but because it's silky soft, you could actually use this all over the lid, through the crease, through the lash line. However, the application will be a lot softer than, for instance, this is a Koiro brush. It is goat hair. Goat hair typically picks up a lot more product than squirrel hair, and I think it could take a little more of a beating, which is why I would usually use my goat hair brushes, with harder to pick up product than gray squirrel. Gray squirrel I would use like with my Suku eyeshadows that are very soft, easy to pick up from the pan, and will just deposit that beautiful veil of color that's lightweight on the eyes, and the softness of the gray squirrel will just easily diffuse that shadow, so it just looks professional in the finish. And with horse hair is a little rougher than goat, but it's gonna pick it up from that pan, especially if you're using, or rather if you insist on using a natural hairbrush over a synthetic one with powder pigments, you know, the reds and the greens, those heavy duty colors, then I think goat is a more appropriate bristle to use because you can wash it more often and it takes more of a beating and will pick up a lot more product than squirrel will. And among many customer reviews, the recommendations are for Koiro's Raiden Kolinsky eyeshadow brushes, the Chikuhodo KZ6, KZ7, the Fox 5, F05, F06, F07, GSN8, GSN9, the Z5, and the Mizuho CMP524. I will have all these down in the description box. This is the KZ6 from Chikuhodo from their Kazan Omari series. It's just a huge, big, fluffy brush. This is Kazan Squirrel, which is different from Gray Squirrel. I think we might have touched on that. We will touch on it eventually, but I wanted to show this brush as it was recommended in that list. Great for one and done moments. It's wide enough to get across the lid, but soft enough to diffuse the color through the crease and pull some color through the lash line. And from also Chikuhodo, the Z5 and up against the KZ6. The Z5 is a little smaller. I get a lot more pickup from the Kazan Squirrel. I don't know why. This is just is very, very soft. I mean, we're talking about the makeup wearer who doesn't really like to wear eyeshadow, but they want a little bit, just a little bit. Place that color right on the lid. And the softness again of the brush, so intuitive to use. So even if you're not a pro or even a makeup enthusiast and you just like, I just need the brush that's gonna apply the eyeshadow for me, but my hand just happens to be on the handle, this is what these do. Exactly that. Example of Kolinsky is from the Hokuto Sora series, the GS5. Beautifully soft and just, for the lid color, listen, for the shimmer, the metallic that you really want to pop, this will pick it up incredibly well. The bristles are elastic, they have beautiful movement on them. It's on the stiffer side, so if you want a little more precise application, it's not going to move like the KZ6 or the Z5 as we just saw. This is more precise application. If maybe you want a spotlight moment on the center of your lid and you need to pick up the hard to pick up products like the sparkly shade from, let's say, the Suku Signature Color Quad, you use a Kolinsky brush to pick that shimmer up and just tap it here on the center of the lid, or even take some on the inner corner or dash some on the brow bone. Another one from Hokuto is a shadow liner brush WS4 from the Pearl White series. This is also with Kolinsky hair, but see how just thin it is, and the bristles stay intact. Beautifully perfect for that lash line application if you want to get it really tight to the lashes and use shadow. Well, we have a couple here. What are the best bristles to use for cream blush and bronzer or contour? What kind of bristles goes with which type of makeup formula? Which natural bristles can be used with creams and liquids besides Goat and Kolinsky? And what are the best bristle types for cream products? I bought a lot of brushes, but most are too flimsy. Generally, more delicate bristles like Gray Squirrel and Silver Fox are not recommended, but more durable bristles like Goat, Weasel, Kolinsky, Horse, PBT, and PBT blends. Aside from durability, absorption can be an issue with natural bristles, which tend to absorb more product, as we discussed before. But the length, shape, and density of bundling also impact whether a bristle type is suitable for liquid cream products or not. For example, Chikuhodo T11 may be Seisakusho Goat, but the bristles are dense and short. One of my most favorite foundation brushes from the Takumi line by Chikuhodo, the T11. As they were saying, although it is natural hair, because the bristles are dense and short, more appropriate to use with liquid and or cream products. And from Chikuhodo themselves, we recommend brushes made of weasel hair or synthetic fibers. Some of our customers use RLQ1 or other liquid foundation brushes for blending blush. It depends on how you use it. Koido recommends their Makiko series and Fupa for cream and liquid products, and Mizuho recommends PBT and Weasel bristles for cream and liquid product application. Here's the Koido Makiko cheek brush. It is synthetic, still very soft, and I especially love this for cream bronze, contour, cream blush, and I don't think it too flimsy because the bristle length is pretty moderate. So I think you're going to get nice flow, but the density stays as well. And this is the Mizuho synthetic brush, dome shaped brush, beautifully perfect for foundation application, but I think the brush head is small enough to also use it for your cheek product, or rather cheek cream product needs. Bronzer, blush, and if you even want to dab on some highlight, you could. Just use the edge of the brush. Hokuto recommends bristles of PBT, Weasel, and Horsehair when it comes to smaller brushes such as eye and small highlights. For cheek brushes, they recommend brushes with densely bundled bristles. Kyoreido recommends using PBT brushes for liquid, cream, and gel makeup, and I'll be more than happy to link the blog post down below where Fude Beauty goes through their favorite cheek eye brushes for liquid cream products as well as liquid foundation brushes. Had to take a quick dinner break and a stroll, but we're back. Let's do it. Which eye brushes would you recommend for people with sensitive skin around the eye area? From Chikuhodo, we recommend using a brush with a soft texture, such as Silver Fox and Gray Squirrel. Tanseido suggested the Squirrel type. The tips of the bristles are fine and soft. Nylon brushes cause static electricity, which are not recommended. You don't want to get electrified on the lids. And Kyoreido suggests soft bristles also. Recommend products that use a squirrel hair. You recommend the KK003 and KK004 eyeshadow brushes from their Kiwami line, which we saw with the powder brush and the eyeshadow brush. This is a great question, and I think one we often ask. How do you know when it's time to discard a Fude brush? The lifespan of a brush depends on its care, but it also depends on the stiffness of the bristles. Soft squirrel bristles can be used for a long time, even if the bristles wear out. If you feel a stinging sensation when you put it on your skin, or if cosmetics do not adhere well to it, you can say that it has reached the end of its life. Kyoreido says if the brush does not apply makeup well after washing, or if the bristles fall out easily, it is time to replace it. And I think this is a great segue into many questions that cover the following: how to take care of the different bristles, how often should you wash squirrel hair brushes, what's the best method to clean the brushes, the best soap to clean them with. For good soap suggestions, Chikuhodo recommends the less often you wash the brushes, the better, but the timing of washing should depend on the condition of the tips rather than the quality of the hair. In order to reduce the number of times you have to wash, please take good care of your tips by using the tissue removal. Koyuro suggests that you wash your goat hair brushes roughly once a month. Squirrel and silver fox, however, once approximately every 3 months. So because they're a lot more delicate, the time frame is wider. Tanseido suggests that squirrel type brushes are fine and soft, so if they get dirty, we recommend them washing with a neutral detergent and rinsing. Both Chikuhodo and Hokuro have their own shampoos if you want to check those out. And Fude Beauty also has a blog dedicated to how you wash your brushes. I will link that also down below. Storing. Hokuro suggests when storing brushes as new, we recommend adding camphor or other insect repellent. When storing brushes after use, there is no possibility of insects eating the brushes since they are covered with cosmetics. However, if the brush is kept in an airtight container, it will accelerate the growth of bacteria, so please keep in a well-ventilated place. Kyoreido writes that it is best to store them in a cylinder-type pen holder or in a pouch or case designed for makeup brushes. And an excellent time to present the Nakamura Seisakusho Collab. This is a exquisitely made brush holder, a collaboration with both Fude Beauty and Nakamura Seisakusho, the Kiryu brush case. This is a limited edition pink case. The makeup brush artisans from Nakamura Seisakusho in Kumano work with the Marunaka textile artisans in Kiryu. The fabric is Kiryu gold brocade, a splendid fabric with patterns woven through it using colored gold threads and silver threads. I don't know if you can see just the shine of the thread. It looks extraordinary up close and even more beautiful in person because the shine jumps out from the fabric. This is of course made in Japan. I know you might see the price and think, oh my goodness, but the fabric used to create this brush case is sought after and highly regarded. It says here that Kiryu textiles are made in and around Kiryu City in the Gunma Prefecture, where a textile culture has flourished since ancient times. They are preferred fabric for many prestigious kimono brands. In 1970, Kiryu textiles were recognized as a traditional Japanese craft. With that said, you might see a fabric like this that's replicated, but this is a fabric that is used to make actual kimonos, which are just, if you haven't seen one, and I haven't had the pleasure of seeing one in person, but to have one made with the same fabric, I can't even imagine. It has a magnetic closure, and when you open it, you have the plastic inlays here with the elastic holders, and it actually stands up on its own. So I think this is quite fantastic for a to-go case, because not only will you be able to hold your brushes inside, but wherever you are at your destination, you could have it upright and just take the brushes out as you like, or lay it back down. And again, the magnetic closure is very secure, and you could probably fit in your towel. So it's very versatile in that you could fit a total of 6 brushes in here. You got 3 for your face, 3 for the eyes, or maybe you could sneak in 2 for the eyes, as I like to do as a pencil brush. So you're not just paying for a brand name, you're paying for a legacy. This is a beautiful collaboration between artisans from different fields, different industries that have been in the field for years. So if you want an authentically made Japanese piece made with beautifully, highly regarded and coveted fabric, The link will be down below. Great question now regarding towels and which one would you use to wipe your brushes on? Can wiping natural brushes on a towel damage them? Is there a best way to wipe to prevent breakage? Normally, you would remove cosmetics by gently dabbing the brush on a tissue. Towels have coarse fibers, so for brushes made of delicate materials, we recommend using a tissue. If the brush is heavily soiled, use a cleaning agent for brushes. I like to use microfiber towels to wipe even my gray squirrel brushes because I typically don't like to wash them as often as my goat hair brushes, as it was explained earlier. I will try tissues though. Tissues are then more gentle than a microfiber towel, I suppose, but I believe if it's microfiber and not regular, you should still be okay. Tanseido recommends using a Japanese towel. Please wipe off carefully. Wipe brushes lightly in the shape of a straight brush and stand it up on a cup or other holder, and please use a suitable shampoo to wash them with. Kyoredo suggests immediately after applying makeup, use a tissue instead of a towel to lightly brush off the brushes until no powder comes out. After washing brushes, wrap it with a dry towel and lightly press down to wipe off the moisture. It is not necessary to wash brushes every time after use. Another question regarding synthetic brushes. I recently bought from a Fude brand, but I think the hairs are synthetic. How can I know? Hokudo says that if the appearance is more shiny and glossy, then it's definitely synthetic. Tanseido says when exposed to light, the nylon fibers appear to glow. And for Kolinsky hair, what's the status and availability of Kolinsky in the US? To please check with US Customs. And here are more product specific questions that Fude Beauty asked that maybe I can help figure out. What is the best type of powder brush and brush hair for me to apply my bronzers? I wear soft brown powder bronzers, not red tones, to warm up my complexion and foundation shade. Otherwise, I want my bronzers to give me a whisper of color. I'm a black woman with a brown skin tone, much like Oprah's color. I apply my bronzers all over my face where needed. Here are a few bronzers that I wear. We're looking at Bobbi Brown's Shade Deep, Fenty Shade, Coco Naughty, and Gucci Shade 04. Number one preference are short handle brushes. They're portable and easier to work with. I'm looking for brush hairs that will help me apply my bronzers heavier because my bronzer shades are similar to my skin tone, just a wee bit darker, warmer. What brush hairs would you suggest? Synthetic or natural? I would definitely go with natural hairs. As I had said before, when dealing with powder products, the cuticles on the hair will pick up more product and will then diffuse a lot more evenly than a synthetic brush would. To get best of both worlds, I would recommend the premium brush from Koyudo, the cheek brush that has both goat and squirrel hair, and it has short handle, so fantastic portability. And you have the goat hair for impeccable product pickup, but you also have the squirrel for soft blending. So that's why I would suggest a goat and squirrel hair blend. If you want more product, however, definitely I would go with exclusively goat. It could be the Sokoho goat hair, whether dyed or undyed. I would also recommend the Koyudo Kakishibuzomi series. This is all goat hair, but it's still incredibly soft and will pick up a little more than gray squirrel would, a little more than the squirrel goat blend that exists in the premium series, but still will leave behind a beautiful blend. But if you want a little more product pickup, then I will suggest goat hair. And also keep in mind, the shorter the bristle, the more dense the brush becomes, the more product pickup thereafter. This is the Chikuhoro Fox brush, the F03. It's still a long bristle, but beautifully plush and heavily bundled with bristles. Therefore, will pick up just enough product and will pick up, I think, enough bronzer to appear like it on your skin tone versus you just apply like a powder foundation. Dare I say, this will be a great opportunity for a puff brush. Again, showing the Hokudo puff brush. This will definitely pick up a lot more product than any of the previously brushes shown. It's not super long handle, but not super short either, so maybe still okay for your portability needs. But because it's so soft, it's going to fit beautifully into the cheekbones, but pick up a lot more product than a longer hair bristle brush would. I love natural hair brushes from Japanese brushes. My question is very specific for the best blush brush. If I have to pick one for this task, for me is an investment, can't buy a lot of brushes, which kind of bristle will be the best. I already have Chikuhoro Z1 for powder. I like pop colors like Nars, but usually I'm afraid to use them because of the pigmentation, and I don't get that smooth, buildable application. Not too light, not too deep, buildable and flawless. I would really appreciate any recommendations. Chikuhodo Z4 or Z8. As I read, Z4 gets more product but gives you flawless, but Z8 is multitask, not too specific for blush. And the Kazan brushes, and they don't use cream blush ever. You know what? I will have to go with, ooh, this is hard. I will go with a fox hair. The gray squirrel is definitely multitasking, but the issue is I feel like some of those Nars blushes, the gelée type of formula, I don't know how well the squirrel hair will pick that up. Whereas the fox hair, I think, will do a better job, but still not be heavy duty in the application like a goat hair brush would leave behind. So definitely the Chikuhodo F03, or I believe it's either the F04 or 5. The F04 brush is an angled brush, which I think beautiful for the cheeks. It just gets it right there on the apples. And also if you ever wanted to delve into bronzer, you could still use that brush, and even the F03 for that bronzer application. Fox hair is just so beautifully plush. I feel like fox hair is so plush, gray squirrel silky, and goat hair soft. Does that make any sense? The feel of the fox hair brushes is just so unique to me, and I feel what you're asking here is a unique experience, so that's why I would suggest anything from the FO series. And a Chikuhodo Z series brush is going to be great. Again, I'm just worried if you will use these brushes on that gel to powder texture. I'm not sure how much pickup you will get. If you were to go with a squirrel brush and you're just going to do one, I will definitely pick up one of the Kazan squirrel brushes. This is the KZ02 from the Kazan Omari series. Just beautifully crafted, very soft, super fluffy. I don't think it will have as much pickup as the fox hair brush. However, it's going to leave behind just a beautiful, smooth, diffuse blush application. And I think, well, you know what? Let's give it a whirl. Let me find something that's gelée in texture. Oh, look at here. Look what I got. I got the, this was like holiday. The Hot Triste palette. Let's take it, you know what? I'm just going to stay in this vicinity here. This is what I think the brush picked up. Going in again, and I'm striking through the pans like a lot. So in the mirror here, I definitely see that there is color on the cheeks for sure. However, if we were to go in with the F03, see what this does, is I think the F03 might be picking up a little more. They both leave behind soft veils of color. So I think either the F03 brush or even the Kazan brush is going to be your best bet. Probably at this point it just comes down to if you want the exposed wooden handle or you want the black lacquer handle from the Z series line. But as you saw with this type of texture, I don't think you have to worry about the brush picking too much product because it looks very soft on the cheeks. In fact, I had to go in multiple times to get that impact of color that I usually like to wear with blush, but I think you'll be safe with any of these choices. And the last couple of questions here, what cleanser would you recommend for natural hair brushes? Any soap that doesn't have harsh detergents, a lot of essential oils. You want it to be as simple in formulation as possible, usually ones that are geared for delicate fabrics, again preferably without any fragrance or with any additional conditioning agents. And lastly, what is the best type hair for Natasha Denona's cream to powder shadow formula? I would go with goat hair, or even the horse hair or the weasel hair, something that's a little stiffer than, definitely not squirrel, because you'll be there all day trying to pick up one of those shadow formulas with a squirrel brush. Please. Seisakusho goat, Sokoho goat will work very well, whether it's dyed or undyed. Again, horse or weasel hair. Kalinsky, sable will work very well. Those are great types because they have a heavy dutier pickup, and therefore the bristle will pick up more product than a squirrel hair bristle. Whew, and that is it, fam. We answered as many questions as we could. I hope this video was helpful if you were still navigating your Fude brush purchase in terms of what bristle hair to pick for what product. And I demo all these brushes in their respective videos. So I will put my Fude brush video playlist down below. You can search Kinky Sweat Chikuhodo, Kinky Sweat Kyoredo, however you want to do it. I'll be there with the brushes. And those videos will also have timestamps with the brush next to the timestamp down below in the description box. So if you just need to shoot over and watch one brush in action, you'll be able to do so without having to watch the whole thing. Again, a huge thank you to Fude Beauty for working with me again. This was such a pleasure, and what an honor to hear directly from the artisans themselves, their recommendations for what brush type and how to take care of the brushes. Stay tuned for more. We still need to look at the Bisioro line, the Tanseido line, and much more. If you have any questions, fam, I'll see you down in the comments. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Fude Beauty extravaganza, monthly favorites, or lunchtime chit chat. Take care, and I will see you again soon.